Are either one of these any good? Sir?
What?
Are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Well, have you heard anything about either one of them?
I find it's best to stay out of other people's affairs.
You mean you haven't heard anybody say anything about either one of these?
Nope.
Well, what about these two?
Oh, they suck.
Our next movie was a sleeper hit at this year's Cannes Film Festival, and seeing it a second time recently, I appreciated even more what director Kevin Smith has been able to do with a rock-bottom budget and a first-class comic imagination in the film Clerks. His movie tells the story of a couple of friends who work as clerks in a strip mall, one in a convenience store, the other in a video store. Their work is basically a distraction from the really important things in life, like girlfriends and random, aimless gossip. The clerks are played by Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson, and the rhythm of their day consists of boredom punctuated by incredulity.
I could do without the people in the video store.
Do you have that one with that guy who was in that movie that was out last year?
You should hear the barrage of stupid questions I get.
What do you mean there's no ice? You mean I gotta drink this coffee hot?
The convenience store clerk has his share of romantic hassles from his current girlfriend, played by Marilyn Gigliotti.
You slept with 12 different girls.
Including you? Yes. Ow, what'd you do that for?
You're a pig.
Why'd you hit
Do you
me?
know how many different men I've had sex with?
Oh, do I get to hit you after you tell me?
And he also has problems with his former girlfriend, played by Lisa Spoonhour.
The Dante Hicks dinner and movie date. I think I've been on that one before.
You have a better suggestion?
Well, how about the Caitlin Bree walk on the boardwalk, then get naked somewhere kind of private date?
I hear that's kind of a popular date.
A lot of attention has been paid recently to the quality of the dialogue in Pulp Fiction, but Kevin Smith has the same ear for colorful speech. His characters are dropouts from Generation X, looking at life with a great deal of dubious distrust and talking about love and marriage as if they were anthropologists from another planet. Clerks is scruffy and unkempt and ill-behaved and doggedly funny, very funny.
Well, I thought so too, and it's amazing what you can do if you have an ear for dialogue. This picture is as minimal as it gets. We're inside the store, people walk in and out, and they are just funny. It is life closely observed. It is raw, it's foul-mouthed. People should be aware of that.
Yes, it is.
And these are funny characters, and you know that these people exist. I mean, that's the reality that this picture gets, and we see writing where people try and get close to this, and again, round off all the corners. Again, this is raw documentary-like.
What the movie shows is what it's like to have a job in our society now. So often in the movies, the only jobs we see are cops and robbers and prostitutes and kings and queens.
Nobody has a working life.
Here's a guy that has to open up before dawn in the morning and stay there until late at night, and he works hard.
And the video store is next door, and there's running back and forth. It's good.
Our video pick this week is the special edition of the movie Clerks. The movie is about the day in the life of a guy who works behind the counter of a convenience store, and it was a big hit last year on the indie film circuit. Now the movie is out on tape and disc, and the disc version includes the movie's original ending. Since the ending was not used in the movie, it was taken out before the movie was released. I don't think we're giving anything away by showing it here.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're closed.
That's right, the central character, Dante, played by Brian O'Halloran, is shot dead in a holdup, and the original version of the movie ended with him sprawled behind the counter of his store. A viewer named Dominic Armato from Burbank, California, wrote me asking, how would the movie have been received if Kevin Smith had kept this original downbeat ending? And I think the movie probably wouldn't have worked as well with an ending that was arbitrary and unnecessarily sad after the comedy that went before. Young filmmakers like Smith are often tempted by notes of existential doom, but basically, I'm happy that he decided to spare Dante. What do you think?
I know where that impulse comes from, to run a whipsaw the audience around, but I think that you would need to prepare. There'd have to be a longer sequence, a much longer sequence, where suddenly you get some sense that this might happen for it to work. As shot, it wouldn't work at all.
I should tell my mother what we do in here at night.
What, that you play video games and I fall asleep unfulfilled?
Our next film is Mallrats, a dismal would-be comedy about kids hanging out at the mall, and I was caught by surprise by this picture when I realized it was made by the same director who made one of the freshest films of last year, Clerks. About 24 hours in the raunchy, freaky, and boring lives of a convenience store clerk and his best friend who mans the video store next door.
Rowdy man, noochies.
This time, director Kevin Smith sets his picture in a shopping mall, and the edginess of Clerks is lost as two young men try to regain the affection of their girlfriends. Here's a sample of the dreary comedy as the boys meet up with a couple of wacky friends at the mall.
So I was just telling T.S. here we got to find Jay and Silent Bob. If there's anyone that can help us out, it's the two guys that have even less to do than us.
What is it? Everyone's looking for us today. We're ducking Trisha because she wants to talk to Obi-Wan here about her video setup.
Why him?
Silent Bob's an electrical genius. He won the science fair in 8th grade by turning his mom's vibrator into a CD player using some chicken wire.
Not much better with the women in the picture. The sex jokes are totally lame between Jason Lee and his girlfriend, Shannon Doherty.
Too little? You said it was a good size.
I sat stone-faced throughout Mallrats, not laughing once. I couldn't believe it was the same talent involved that made Clerks. Maybe it's the sophomore jinx, maybe a bigger budget, but the salesmen in Clerks were alive and unpredictable. The consumers in Mallrats are stale, recycled gag machines. Rent Clerks instead of seeing Mallrats.
I'm totally in agreement with you on this, and what you miss in this film is the sense of immediacy and danger and things happening right now. The thing about Clerks, which cost, I don't know, $24,000, is that you sat there for an hour and a half and you were involved in the lives of these people. The dialogue sounded real, the situations developed in a way that was both comic and convincing, and here it's just all sitcom.
I completely agree.
And now, at last, we come to what at least I think is the only good movie on this week's show. It's called Chasing Amy, and it was written and directed by Kevin Smith, who made a name for himself a few years ago with a very low-budget comedy named Clerks that was well-written and very funny. Then he made Mallrats, a film so bad that Smith actually apologized for it. Now he's back with Chasing Amy, which is a terrific film, well-written, well-acted, about a love affair that forces a comic book artist to question all of his ideas about himself. Here's an early scene where the artist, played by Ben Affleck, runs into a woman he met at a comic book convention. She's played by Joy Lauren Adams, and she writes comic books too, and at this point, what he doesn't know is she's a lesbian.
What, you're saying you're from the burbs?
Middletown, New Jersey.
Get out of here! I'm from Highland.
I know, Roeper told me.
How is it we never ran into one another?
She begins to hang out with the artist and his two friends, played here by Jason Lee and Dwight Ewell.
Archie and Jughead were lovers.
Shut the...
It's true. Archie was the bitch and Jughead was the butch. That's why Jughead wears that crown-looking hat all the time. Be the king of Queen Archie's world.
More good dialogue here as the artist meets with two real-life friends who are the inspiration for his dope-addled comic book heroes. The guy on the right there is Kevin Smith, the movie's director, still playing Silent Bob, his character in Clerks and Mallrats.
I'm just having a little girl trouble.
Big pressing charges? I get that a lot.
Finally becomes clear to Affleck that he is in love with this girl, even if she is gay, and he pours out his feelings in a heartfelt scene.
I love you. And not in a friendly way. Although I think we're great friends. And not in a misplaced affection, puppy dog way. Although I'm sure that's what you'll call it. I love you. Very, very simple. Very truly. You are the epitome of everything I have ever looked for in another human being. And I know that you think of me as just a friend, and crossing that line is the furthest thing from an option you would ever consider, but I had to say it.
Chasing Amy is a smart, funny, and surprisingly moving film, and it deals honestly with issues of sexuality with more wisdom and insight than you would even remotely expect from a film based in this slacker comic book doper milieu. Listening to these people talk, you realize that most movie characters are operating at 1/4 speed. The way the movie pulls together all of its plot points in a great final scene is very well handled, and Chasing Amy is more evidence that Kevin Smith is an original and promising talent.
I think so too, and you know, these are the buzzwords that we've been saying week after week. Intelligent, sounds like people actually talking. I would ask the screenwriters out in Hollywood who's missed this time after time, does this sound like anybody you have ever heard talking? And maybe they ought to go see Chasing Amy and hear what natural speech sounds like. I can't believe they don't hear it in their real lives They don't reflect it in
Well,
their
you
movies.
take the opening scene of this movie. I don't know anything about, I don't care about comic books that much, but I found this fascinating because it was about what they really do and how they feel about it, and he's getting on the other guy's nerves. And when you hear that dialogue, you think about that old feeling, which doesn't have
nothing.
6 lines in it that anyone would ever say under any circumstances.
That Midler seemingly hates her ex-husband, Dennis Farina, but what do you know? They give it one more chance in a stupid movie called That Old Feeling that really set my teeth on edge. This script is just junk. It follows the formula of feud and makeup, feud and makeup. You'll figure that out in 5 minutes and start hating that old feeling. I know I did.
You picked up a few pounds. Oh, fatty. Put me down. Put me down. Put me down. Try something.
We got
real
it's wrong.
Tess, I'm so glad that Fargo won, to go back. I'm so glad that Fargo, and a picture like this, won for Best Original Screenplay. These are the films, these scripts must be studied by people in Hollywood. They're on another planet. They're on another planet.
But they were joined by this man. He wouldn't admit it, but he looked and sounded suspiciously like Dogma's writer, director, co-star, and New Jersey resident, Kevin Smith.
I don't think it stands for anything positive.
What does it stand for?
I don't know, but I've been told not good.
For 12 days recently, Ken and I were among the thousands of journalists covering the 52nd annual Cannes Film Festival in the south of France. This is the biggest and most famous film festival in the world, and for people like us, pretty much a nonstop grueling experience. You try to tell your editors it's work and they don't believe you, but it is work. From when we trudge up the steps of the Palais de Festival for the 8:30 a.m. press screening, to the evening black tie official screenings where festival director Gilles Jacob greets his guests at the top of the red carpet, to the parties held every night on the beach, like the one for Kevin Smith's controversial new film, Dogma. And there he is with his wife, Jennifer. Also at the party, I ran into Ben Affleck, Linda Fiorentino, and Miramax boss Harvey Weinstein.
Also a pleasant surprise was Dogma, the brazen and very funny new film from Kevin Smith. It's a one-of-a-kind comic fantasy about Linda Fiorentino saving the world from evil that somehow combines crude adolescent humor and a sincere look at questions of religious faith.
Someone told me I'd meet you and you'd take me someplace I was supposed to go.
But the signs and the apostles and the
This
fallen
movie
angels,
did not put down
the
Dogma.
seraphim
This
and the-
movie celebrates Dogma. This movie says, here's a situation where these angels have found a dogmatic loophole that's going to cause a lot of trouble, and we have to save the universe.
And I think that's the point of the satire,
Well, I
which
mean,
is that if you can have a religion that says, uh-oh, God made a mistake and here's a loophole.
You can't, though. You can't have that religion. Turns out it's not a loophole.
Well, it's about a plenary indulgence, and we could probably spend 3 hours discussing
Which is
that.
the fascinating thing about the movie. I mean, last week we reviewed a movie called The Bachelor, which was about zilch.
It's
This
about
movie,
nothing.
we could talk about, you and I, for 3 or 4 hours about the ideas in this movie.
I'm suggesting that there would be a more entertaining way to do that without
But I thought
numbing
it was
everybody
very
out
funny,
with all of
and
this
its attitudes, the
incessant,
whole idea.
exhaustive dialogue
These-
about things. I went through 12 years of Catholic schools, and I was hanging on for dear life. And it was boring in a way. It was
No,
just
it
dull.
wasn't.
If you
I
could
found-
catch what was going
I
on.
went through Catholic school, too. We used to talk about this stuff all the time. We were always trying to figure out, would this be a mortal sin? Would this be a venial sin? These characters, and Kevin Smith is a Catholic, says he goes to
You
church
know what?
every
if you
Sunday.
aren't Catholic, you'd be completely lost. But
Well,
even if
maybe
you
so.
are, it would be completely exhausting, and was. And what about Selma Hayek as a muse turned stripper fighting an excrement-covered
Well, I mean,
demon?
strippers
Is
and
that
muses,
funny? When you're sick,
strippers
it's
and muses
funny,
kind
but
of
not
have
now.
the same function at times. Coming up next.
Yes.
Buzz that he indicated, that movie's gonna make some huge bank.
What buzz?
The internet buzz.
What is the internet?
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
That's Ben Affleck as the internet coach there. Jay and Silent Bob, of course, are the characters we first saw holding up the wall outside the convenience store in Clerks. They played roles big and small in all 4 of Kevin Smith's films, and in Chasing Amy, they inspired a comic book, Blunt Man and Chronic. Now the comic's being made into a movie, and the boys decide to hitchhike to Los Angeles to demand a share of the action. Along the way, they meet George Carlin, who says the #1 rule in the Hitchhiker's book is offer sex.
Thank God you picked us up.
Well, do unto others. That's what the book says.
Wait a sec, you follow the book too?
I live my life by it.
The movie is filled with cameo roles like the one with Carrie Fisher there. On the road, Jay finds love when Shannon Elizabeth walks into a diner. She's one of a gang of 4 girls on their way to the coast, and Jay and Silent Bob tag along, eventually sneaking onto the set of the movie based on their own lives.
White boys can't fight.
That's Chris Rock as the director of the movie within the movie, and Mark Hamill as the villain. And this movie has to be the boldest in-joke in Hollywood history. It helps a lot, I think, to have seen all four of Smith's earlier films, since characters, actors, and situations turn up all the time. Also, you ought to be enthusiastic about comic books and the internet. And you should understand how four-letter words can sometimes be used just as flavoring and punctuation. Smith loves to write barbed dialogue. Listen to Jason Lee's analysis here of Miramax.
Miramax auctioned Blunt Man and Chronic.
Miramax, I thought they only made classy pictures like The Piano or The Crying Game.
Yeah, well, once they made She's All That, everything went to hell.
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back bites the hand that feeds it, and every other hand in sight, and some feet. If you get the references, it's funny, and if you don't, it's still funny.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was just horrible. I mean,
Aren't you into this stuff?
You know what? I've seen all those movies, and I know about comic books, and I think Jay and Silent Bob are funny when they're against the wall in the convenience store, but you put them on the road in a whole movie, and this thing was just tedious and smug and just not funny.
Now, one thing it isn't
just
is
not
smug.
funny.
It's not smug.
Oh, it's very pleased with itself to do all these little in-jokes. And the cameos by the big movie stars, they're winking at the camera and going, aren't we hipsters? We're still hanging out with our old buddies.
That's what the movie is about.
But that's
the movie is about being an in-joke.
But you know what? The in-jokes aren't that funny. The Good Will Hunting 2 sequel, another movie within a movie.
Was great.
No, it wasn't funny. It could have been better than that.
Affleck and Matt Damon doing Good Will Hunting Part 2. That was really funny stuff. And
some
the
of the
way
exchanges
they get in a fight with each other, and they're arguing about the material. That was all good.
No, the George Carlin stuff, the Carrie Fisher stuff, that stuff, there's nothing funny about that. The jokes aren't funny. And you know what? Jay and Silent Bob aren't that funny in and of themselves. The Jay character in particular, he's just a creep and he's stupid. What's charming about that?
What they are, they're basically kind of stoner versions of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Oh, that's what it is.
Well, there's some big standards to live up to.
We got something from the children's section.
Those movies suck.
Watch your language.
Let's get this part out of the way first. Yes, Jennifer Lopez is in Jersey Girl, playing Ben Affleck's wife. But she dies early in the movie, leaving him with a cute little daughter. Affleck plays a high-powered press agent in Manhattan. He's just lost his wife, and then he gets fired. Ben is forced to move back in with his dad in New Jersey and regroup.
Won't be here too long, Dad.
Kid gets this.
That's cute. 8 o'clock. You both get a bottle.
George Carlin tries to lend a hand with his grandchild. The comic always wanted to be an actor, and here he gets a chance to deliver more than punchlines.
Your daddy really misses your mommy, kid. I miss her too, especially right now. Oh, shit.
What does yours look like?
Raquel Castro is a scene stealer and gives a very natural performance as little Gertie. She was cast after director Kevin Smith put her picture next to one of Ben and J-Lo and thought they looked like an instant family.
What are your intentions with my daughter? Do you plan on marrying her?
I don't know.
When you come back with a ring.
I'm not telling you to fall in love with me here, and I'm not trying to replace your wife.
Liv Tyler is warm and funny as the video store clerk who's determined to get her customer back in circulation.
Been a long time.
How long?
7 years.
7 years?
Since my wife died, yeah.
With all due respect to your wife, you gotta get back on the horse, man.
Gertie gets a sneak peek as Tyler is jump-starting Ben's hormones.
Hi, honey. What are your intentions? Do you plan on marrying him?
Director Kevin Smith has teamed up with Affleck before in films including Dogma and the wonderful Chasing Amy. He's a Jersey guy and wrote this story after his own daughter was born. Smith was inspired by wondering what if he had to raise her on his own. Ben Affleck could certainly use a hit after tanking in Geely and Paycheck, and I really enjoyed his performance this time. I hope his personal drama won't distract from a very charming movie. There's great chemistry between Affleck and Liv Tyler, but the real love story here is between father and child, a man and his daughter who build a family they can depend on. I give Jersey Girl 3.5 stars. I'm Roger Ebert, ABC 7 News.
I'm an actor.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Thank you.
What? Anything I've seen? What movies?
Oh, all sorts of movies with all-male casts.
All-male casts. I apologize in advance if I am out of line here, But are you in gay porn?
Guilty as charged.
Seth Rogen and Elizabeth Banks star in the latest film from the director of Clerks, Chasing Amy, and Dogma. I'm Ben Lyons from E! Entertainment.
And I'm Ben Mankiewicz from Turner Classic Movies. When I told a friend of mine I was off to see Zack and Miri make a porno, I was asked, with a significant degree of derision, I might add, "Oh, are you one of those Seth Rogen fans?" Well, I paused and pondered a bit before saying yes. Yes, I am a Seth Rogen fan. And then I saw this movie.
Yeah,
What? You got an idea?
we could make a porno.
If it's so easy, how come everybody doesn't do it?
Because other people have options and dignity, which we do not have, which puts us in an amazingly advantageous position.
I have dignity.
Porn has gone mainstream now. Look at Paris Hilton. Now she's selling fragrances to tweens.
America, yes, I am a fan of Seth Rogen. Rogen plays Zack. His lifelong best friend is Miri, that's Elizabeth Banks. They live together in a totally platonic relationship, but they're also broke. So, as the title suggests, as we would all do, they decide to make a porno.
The ones I liked when I was a kid, it was always a spoof of a popular movie. I got it!
Star Wars.
What? Han Solo ain't never had no sex with Princess Leia in the Star Wars.
Now, when you consider the title, Zack and Miri Make a Porno, and the writer-director here, Kevin Smith, whose generally funny work is often tempered with an excess of crude vulgarity, I worried Zack and Miri might devolve into a filthy movie, but it's not. It's got considerably more fun than filth. So, really, without any reservations, Ben, I say see it.
Absolutely see it. Kevin Smith, always a very funny voice in comedy, but this one's a little bit different. It's not, like you said, crude and filthy as maybe some of the dialogue in his previous films have been. I love all those previous films.
It's not so much the dialogue, it's literally when he turns to the bathroom humor too consistently. But
yeah, but this has a tenderness to it, and Seth Rogen is so charming, and his relationship with Elizabeth Banks is really beautiful to watch evolve on screen. Very surprised by this, because like you, I kind of imagined that maybe it would kind of spiral into nonsense, and it didn't.
You know, there's some moments like in Dogma and Clerks 2 where it's funny, but then these movies get so gross that I think they certainly lose me, and I think they lose a lot of people. But right at the moment in Zack and Miri where you think it's sort of going to go off that cliff, as you mentioned, we get the tenderness that we saw in Chasing Amy and also in Jersey Girl, another movie of Kevin Smith that I really liked.
We talked about the romantic relationship, if you will, or even the friendship between Elizabeth Banks and Seth Rogen, but it's the supporting characters here that really stand out for me. Justin Long is in one scene that is worth seeing the film alone just for that. And Craig Robinson, who all of a sudden has popped up in all the Judd Apatow films. He's on The Office, and he's great in this. Probably his biggest role on screen is fantastic as well.
Also, Jason Mewes, Jeff Anderson, the Kevin Smith stock company. I thought nice to see those guys back again.
Absolutely, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Boy, I wish I could reach out right now. Let me tell you something. I thought it was charming as hell. It was funny. Yes, it exists in a kind of movie world, but it reminded me of some, like a Blake Edwards comedy from the 70s with maybe not quite as much bite to it, but that same kind of feel.
Oh
that
my
same
God,
kind of
dude,
feel.
if I was Blake Edwards, I would fly to Chicago. I don't care how much snow there was. Dig my way through, find you, and slap the taste out of your mouth for comparing this movie to a Blake Edwards picture, sir. You gave Jersey Girl thumbs down. You gave this movie thumbs up. You're insane.
I stand by my record, sir.
No sleep till!
I'm Richard Roeper, and coming right up, you're not going to believe this. Bruce Willis is playing a New York police officer. Why didn't anybody else ever think of that? It's my review of Cop Out, and it's next. It's hard to put into words just how painful Cop Out is, but I'm going to try to come up with some words for you. Obnoxious, unfunny, loud, annoying, stupid, dopey, big steaming pile of excrement. I think I'm getting close here.
Knock, knock. No. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No. 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 Hell no. 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 I refuse. No. No.
Who's there? Bruce Willis. I love Bruce Willis. I especially love Bruce Willis when he plays cops, but here he seems to be giving an ambient influence performance. He's playing a cop by the name of Jimmy Monroe.
Why did you smack me?
I was in the moment, and the moment said smack you. He's the obligatory tough guy cop who lost his wife to a rich prick because, of course, he was married to the job. Now, Tracy Morgan, I think in short bursts, he could be the funniest man in America, but he just yells all his lines here. It doesn't come close to really creating a character. He plays Jimmy's longtime partner named Paul.
This is the stuff that my mother used to tell her friends about. My son is a genius. My son is a genius.
Now, this movie touches on just about every buddy cop movie cliche. You know, the bad cop, good cop interrogation scene. We get a lot of action sequences that end with either car crashes or kicks to the crotch. Of course, the guys get called into the superior's office at some point, and he actually tells them, I need your guns and your badges. I mean, we've seen this stuff in so many movies before. The problem with Cop Out is it doesn't know if it's a satire or a serious action movie, and making matters worse, you get Seann William Scott, who also can be funny in certain movies, but here he plays a drug-crazed criminal whose idea of being funny is just to repeat everything everybody else says.
Shut up! Stop repeating me. Stop repeating.
Come on.
Shut up, man. You see what he's doing, Jim?
And making matters even worse, the bad guys in this movie, I mean, they're the least scariest, least menacing bad guys I've seen in a movie since, like, maybe forever. They suck. They're terrible. Everybody's giving a bad performance in this movie. The story goes nowhere. It's just derivative and filled with cliches. And here's the big disappointment about this movie for me. It's directed by Kevin Smith. It doesn't feel at all like a Kevin Smith movie. I know Kevin Smith. I like Kevin Smith. He was the second best guest critic I ever had on Ebert and Roeper. When Smith goes on stage, he goes on tours all around North America and he gives speeches. He tells these great stories about the makings of various movies and scripts he's worked on that never became movies. I hope and I think and I pray that one day he'll go on stage and tell the real story about the making of Cop Out, and I bet it's infinitely funnier and more interesting than the movie itself. I give Cop Out a D+. I'm Richard Roeper, and coming up next, last year's Best Supporting Actress Melissa Leo sets a trap for 3 horny teenagers, and all hell breaks loose. It's my review of Red State right now. Red State isn't Kevin Smith's best film, but in some ways, it's his most impressive directorial work. He assaults the senses, and he shifts gears with all the subtlety of a getaway driver on crystal meth. This is one of the more daring, albeit uneven movies of 2011, and you know what? I sort of loved it.
What is this, man?
It's like Craigslist for people who want to get laid.
I thought Craigslist was Craigslist for people who want to get laid.
All right, warning, spoiler alerts are coming. Spoiler alerts are coming. The opening scenes of Red State are in the Kevin Smith comfort zone with smart, sex-obsessed, working-class teenagers talking about sex, religion, and more sex. 3 horny teenagers make an online hookup with a MILF who lives in a trailer, but it's a trap, and they're now prisoners of a notoriously hateful cult that cloaks itself in religious fervor. This bunch is so evil, so warped, that even the Nazis have disavowed them. Michael Parks is bizarrely charismatic as the pastor. Parks delivers one of the longest monologues in motion picture history as the pastor sermonizes against all the perceived evils in the world.
Talking about fearing God, I fear God. You better believe I fear God.
At this point, Red State feels like a sharp, if somewhat heavy-handed satire, but then suddenly, and here comes another spoiler alert, Red State really shifts gears. Remember how From Dusk Till Dawn went from serial killer crime thriller to vampire movie? Well, Red State turns into a horror film as the teenagers attempt to escape, shots ring out, and the law gets involved.
Send the sinner straight to hell. Send the sinner straight to hell.
God doesn't love you. Unless you fear him.
A possible Branch Davidian-type scenario looms, one of the cult members shows a trace of humanity, and lots of people get blown away in graphically entertaining fashion. Amidst the kinetic action and the speechifying, we get some terrific performances from Melissa Leo as the pastor's fiercely hateful daughter.
You get down on your knees and pray for God's forgiveness.
Carrie Bish as Leo's daughter, and John Goodman playing the weary ATF agent who's trying to do the right thing.
Yes, sir. It's dawn here now, but we can be fully mobilized and on site in an hour.
Using the red camera system, Smith shows a real flair for shocking zombie movie-type violence. Red State careens forward at warp speed until the final scene, which is a bit of a letdown and requires too much exposition. Bigots are among the easiest cinematic targets in the world, but it doesn't mean we can't get a kick out of seeing them get their comeuppance. And kudos to Smith for taking us down one path and then hijacking our expectations and leading us elsewhere.
So how's about you head back into the bedroom, start stripping down so we can get this thing started?
You can download Red State, or you can catch it on demand right now, or you can see it in theaters on September 25th. I give it a B+.
Of all forgiveness to set you free. I see the face of Jesus on my way this night. And my Savior, that you comfort me.
Shut the fuck up!